Welcome and thank you for watching the Tahoe Regional Young Professionals 2016 Candidate Interview Series. TRYP is a politically neutral organization and does not endorse candidates or ballot measures. This video series is produced to prepare our community to make informed vote on November 8th. Each of the 10 candidates will have 10 minutes to answer 3 questions they received in advance and 1 free-form question. We're here with Trey Riddle. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Devin.
So let's start with our first question. What are your goals for the city and how will it look in the next 5 years?
Well, I would like to see the city have a more homogeneous look to it with well thought out infrastructure. The problem is that right now I don't think that there's going to be a lot of change in 5 years because there's a lot of overregulation and a lot of interagency discord. So I think that's something that we need to focus on first, is getting this lake and the city together as a team to move towards the future.
All right, and so your sort of initial action will getting people together, and what sort of outcome would you want from that process?
Well, I would just like to see I would just like to see progress easier to be achieved here in South Lake Tahoe. I feel like people feel like they're swimming upstream right now, and that's something that I'd like to work on and make it so that our residents feel like they have a say in how Tahoe looks.
Perfect. So what concrete actions should the city take to provide more housing affordability in South Lake Tahoe?
Well, you know, that question's been asked a lot, and I think most of the candidates pretty much say the same thing. You know, we need more housing units, and they want to try to manipulate the market, which is tough to do. I have a different approach. I think that if you really, truly want to make housing affordable, you need to pay the residents a higher wage so that they can afford the housing that already exists. I think we can do that by paying our residents 20% more than whatever the California minimum wage is at any given time. And in a few years, when that's $15 an hour, that'll be $18 an hour for our residents. And for a full-time employee, that's $36,000 a year. And you know, if you just take a second to imagine what our town would look like if the lowest paid full-time employee made $36,000 a year, you know, it'd look a lot nicer. People would have more money to spend. They'd be able to afford not just to rent their own place, but maybe even buy their own place, which I think is really important. I think everybody should be able to own their own home.
So you think the city has a very important role to play on the economic development wage side of thing, and then as far as on the housing side,
right.
sort of
well,
let them...
So housing projects, if you had 100 units or so, that's nothing in the big scheme of things. That's in 20,000 people live in this town, so 100 units doesn't do much, or however many, you know, it's a drop in the bucket. And the other way of manipulating the market and trying to limit VHRs and things of that nature and through zoning, we've been down that road. It doesn't work. So I think we need to look at other ways of trying to make housing affordable.
Perfect. So with the known impacts that climate change will have on Lake Tahoe, does the city have a responsibility to implement policies to address this?
Well, climate change is something that's happening on a global level, and it's hard to change things on a global level. So I think what you have to do is shrink it down to the individual, and you have to start to change people's ways of thinking as an individual. I have a program that I'd like to work on called the One a Day program. And I got this idea by walking down our shared paths back and forth to work. I see pieces of trash on the side of the road, and every time I try to pick up at least 2 pieces of trash. You know, I could be there all day and I wouldn't make much of an impact. But if every person took the time to pick up 1 piece of trash every day for a year, with 20,000 people in town, that'd be over 7 million pieces of trash off the road in 1 year. So I think that's what we need to do is change the individual's way of thinking, and then from there, you know, things like BMPs become second nature.
Cool. And then do you think there's things that the city can do to sort of prepare for, not necessarily prevent the changes that are expected to happen, but prepare for loss of snowpack or increased wildfire risk?
Well, I mean, it's good to be prepared for things like that. It's just a matter of how do we prepare and figuring that out and implementing it.
Perfect. So in your last answer, you were talking about sort of wages and economic development, and you've advocated for, like you said, 20% over the state minimum wage, or even higher. What would you do to actually implement that if elected to city council?
Well, I wouldn't try to push anything on the city that the residents don't want. So first, I would see if people, how people feel about it. And if the majority does, then maybe we could push a measure through to increase it and make it law, because it only works if everybody does it. You know, you can't rely on people to volunteer to do it, businesses, I mean, because they're not going to. So first, I would try to see how everyone in the city feels about it, and then move forward from there.
What would sort of be your selling point to get local businesses and community members sort of on board with the concept?
Well, normally I would say a minimum wage increase doesn't work, because you raise the minimum wage, so you have to raise the cost of your goods, and it's cyclical, and you wind up just decreasing the value of the dollar. So we're different because we have a large influx of income that comes from outside of town. We're not just pushing it back and forth across the table. So we can use that to subsidize that income, that wage increase. Say if you have a restaurant and you're already selling burgers at $15 a piece, you know, an extra $3 an hour for a server is, you know, raise the price 50 cents, you sell 6 burgers an hour, it's paid for itself. If a server's not selling 6 burgers in an hour, you're overstaffed anyway. So when you start selling more than, you know, 6 burgers an hour, then you're actually making more money than you would have had you not increased the wage and increased the price of your services by that small amount.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Trey.
Thank you, Devin.
And thank you for watching the 2016 Candidate Interview Series. You can find this interview and the rest of our interviews on our website at TahoeTRYP.org or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Tahoe Regional Young Professionals.